E2, Harrison. E2. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Again, a little bit delayed. As you can see by the location, still not at home, still on vacation, so my timing of being able to do things is not my own. But I am here, and I have seen Dexter, episode 4, H is for Hero. And it is a doozy. I think in most people's recaps and whatnot, they sort of saw this one coming. The writing was on the wall for Mr. Harrison, but the road to get there is kind of interesting. We didn't know it would quite go down like this. We start off the episode with Dexter and Deb sort of trying to figure out why Kurt is doing what he's doing. He is saying that his son is alive. And they sort of come to this conclusion that Kurt is doing this so that he can get everyone to sort of lower their guards. The police, whoever actually may have killed him, so they can lower their guards and sort of slip up and give up a clue or give up a mistake, and so he can sort of follow these breadcrumbs. And Dexter kind of falls into that trap a little bit. He gives a little bit more information that he's aware of Matt's wrongdoings in the past and tries to clean it up a bit uh, by saying that his wife was pillow talking, or Matt's friend sort of has the gift of gab, and he seeming like he gets out of it, but he knows he's kind of messed up by giving him a little too much. And I do think that eventually, the way that Kurt acts, he's going to mention this to Angela, and I feel like the pillow talk may come back to bite him. Um, I don't know if Dexter quite knows Angela well enough to know that she's not going to just go along with that. She's going to start coming back like, well, why did you throw me in there? So I think that might come back to bite him. The main part of this episode, the meat of it, is the sort of the unveiling of Harrison, and sort of peeling back the layers that do exist in that young man's world. Poor, sweet Harrison. So what happens is an incident occurs at the school where uh, Jim is called and has to rush there. And upon arrival, he sees that Harrison has been stabbed, and Ethan, Harrison's friend, who he had just seen leave the other day, picked him up for school, has bled out quite a bit from a slash on the back of his leg. And the way that Harrison describes it is that he's like, "Hey, I was trying to protect myself. I grabbed the knife, and after he stabbed me, and I just slashed, and this is how we end up in the situation." And the police are like, "That makes sense to me." He even also then throws his friend under a bus and says, "Hey, yo, I overheard him saying some stuff about trying to kill people and come to school and shooting." And then that's when they find the artwork, because Harrison knows that that artwork exists, and sort of throws his boy under a bus. Everybody's buying it, and they're like, "Oh man, he's a hero. Good for him." Except for Dexter. Dexter has this little thing in the back of his head that's saying this stuff doesn't add up. He goes into forensic CSI mode, and it's like, something about this doesn't make sense. The story, the blood splatter. He goes to the precinct and looks at the photos. None of it is jiving with the story that Harrison has sort of created. And so he presses Harrison a little bit on it, and Harrison fights back and gets a little real defensive, and kind of just storms off. When he goes to storm off, Dexter does one last thing. He's like, "I'm going to just go look at the scene of the crime." And he does that old school thing where he replays the entire scene of the crime in real time. And it is revealed that the way that it occurred is that Ethan was walking away. Harrison slashes his foot, and then he stabbed himself to give the appearance of him being attacked. And Dexter now needs to find out why this happened, because it doesn't make sense with the persona that Harrison has been creating. The stuff that Deb keeps saying, like, "Oh, he's well mannered, he's well adjusted, he fits in well with the people." Something is clearly not the case there. So Harrison goes to the hospital to visit Ethan, and his parents are there, and his mom's like, "Why don't you just tell us? Why don't you give us a heads up so that we could kind of done something for this?" His dad's a little bit more forgiving. His dad is very much of the mindset that this could have gone a lot worse. We could have been responsible for a lot of people's kids and families being, well, messed up. But I never want to see you again. Don't ever come back here. Which is where this gets weird, is why Harrison, if Harrison considers Ethan to be a friend, and I don't know, I don't know if this is a matter of him snapping or not. But if Harrison considers him to be a friend, I don't know why the attack happened. Like, I don't know what broke. that made him have to do that. Hopefully, we get a flashback sequence of that. Um, but I don't know exactly why that is. Because him going to the hospital doesn't quite jive. Like, I don't know if he was going to go finish Ethan off so that he doesn't tell what actually happened, or if he was there actually as a concerned friend, and if so, why did he snap for that brief moment? So, the next day in assembly, the kids who are all on that kill list are at an assembly in the gym, and they are having a conversation, sort of say, if you need any grief counseling, if you need to talk to someone, please do. And then they give the floor to the kids, and they all sort of, those bullies who were bullying Ethan congratulate uh, Harrison and say thank you. And then Harrison sort of stands up and is like, I don't really want your appreciation. I do want to call out that you guys are partially responsible for this, and that you tormented him for so long that you created this monster that could be capable of doing something like this. And it's an interesting take. Like, I don't know what the end game is to protect the bully. Protect the victim, protect the person who's being bullied, give the bullies their comeuppance, and then attack the victim. Like, I don't know what that triangular end game is to get to this point. I don't know if it's to get more acknowledgement, to be look more like a hero, to sort of hide in plain sight. Not entirely sure, but it is very interesting how Harrison got to this point. While at the assembly, Dexter is back at his house and just going through Harrison's room and kind of scouring it for any clues that may give some semblance of why he did what he did. Um, and he stumbles on a straight razor and a flashlight. Same straight razor that was the weapon of choice from the Trinity Killer, played by John Lithgow. And holy shit, this kid's in it. It's interesting because earlier in the episode we got moments where Harrison seemed to remember stuff from his childhood. He recites language that his aunt Deb used to say, and it seems like it's a heartfelt moment. Like, oh, but now you start questioning, how much does this kid remember? Does he remember going to some kill sites with his dad and being set aside? Does he remember having any type of memory of the him sitting in a pool of blood when his mom has been murdered in front of him? And if he doesn't, he is at least cognizant enough to know that he was there. He's at least aware of the crime, probably via news articles and stuff that he's listened to, but also the podcast from the podcast woman who has been on site and with the Mary Kill. I forgot what the name of the podcast is, but there was episode 3 was a Trinity Killer episode. He's listened to that before all of this sort of broke down and is aware that he was there at that point in time. So he is very cognizant that he was around blood and murder, and I don't know if this is sort of a kick into that or a remembering of that, but if nothing else, he has a dark passenger. Clearly an uncoded or unchecked dark passenger, because we don't know why Harrison would do what he is doing, but there is something there. I tell you, that boy still got bodies. Somewhere, somehow, he's got bodies, and I think he's the one responsible for Hannah's death. I'm sticking to it. In a side story, Molly and Angela believe that they need to form some type of duo to recover the missing girls that are missing. And so Molly believes and tells Angela that, hey, yo, I got like 800 followers who can be sort of these armchair home detectives to kind of do the legwork that your town just doesn't have or you don't have the bandwidth to do. While you're in this, you know what's happening. You can give these names and we can sort of work on this together. And Angela reluctantly agrees because nothing else has been working, so let's give this a shot. And the only other thing that exists in this is Kurt sort of befriends a runaway girl. He's giving her money, he's grooming her. This very much feels like they are red herring us to him. Because after he attempts to give her a job and whatnot, he does give her a home to stay. And he sort of brings her to the back side of his house and has that little underground cabin, which looks a lot like the place where, when the person who was hunting these girls releases them, they sort of run out of. But I think these type of things exist in multiple homes there. So I'm not necessarily. It feels like they're pointing to him too much for it to actually be him. I also think that there's a part of this that Kurt feels guilty for whatever Matt has done by killing girls and whatnot. So I think he might actually be being helpful. I still think this all points to Edward Olsen, who's just completely absent from this episode. Which, if that ever happens, and they want you to sort of forget about that character, it leads me to believe that that's who there it is. So I'm now starting to think this is more Edward Olsen, and I just think Kurt is just a messed up dad who has a shitty kid, who he's trying to like make up for that history. But all in all, really, really solid episode. It is going to be interesting to see how this all comes together with Dexter approaching Harrison about this, seeing how he becomes defensive. I think the only way to sort of get in good with Harrison is Dexter's going to have to reveal that he killed the Trinity Killer. He may not mention all the other bodies that he has, which may become a problem because if Harrison's smart, he's going to just look at the pattern of all the other stuff that occurred, that people have died in that same way. But I think at the very least, he needs to inform him that, yo, I took care of this, so maybe you don't have to be like me. And if that doesn't work, then he needs to train him in a proper way. And I don't know, for a kid who's gone this much in life doing things the way that he does, I don't know if it's going to work out to take on some of the characteristics that Dexter is already, that is, he may try to implement in. When you start getting these episodes that put you on the edge of your seat, and you're like, oh no, what is happening, and you don't see what's coming next, it's good writing. So I'm excited to see what happens next, Dexter, episode 5. But that's 4 in the can. H is for Hero. What did you guys think? Go ahead, leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. That's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere they'll place podcasts. We're there. But like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.